Going to win. Okay, this is not the country I live in. This is just, I refuse to believe that. We're going to win because this is not who we are. I'm very comfortable with my prediction, my certainty that we're going to win, because we're going to win, baby. We're just going to win this thing.
We're going to win. You heard James Carville say it right here and other places. He wasn't the only top Democrat saying that, and confidence was something that was part of what the Harris campaign wanted to project. James, for those who've been watching, continues to be our guest. I just want to mention that he owns up to this in a way that, frankly, a lot of Washington political types don't. You write in the New York Times, quote, "I was wrong about the 2024 election. We lost for a simple reason. It is, and it will always be the economy. Stupid." That's James quoting James. "We have to begin this year," he says, 2025, "with that truth as our political North Star and not get distracted by anything else." The piece also says perception is everything in politics. A lot of Americans perceive Democrats as out to lunch on the economy, and they have to talk about the economy in ways that are persuasive, repetitive, memorable, be entirely focused on the issues that affect Americans' everyday lives. James Carville, why were you wrong? You can expound on what I quoted there. You began to answer it. And second, why is it important to you to own up and maybe write this piece? Again, I'm not trying to be overly nice to you just because we like you, but I can think of other people in politics who've been wrong, who were wrong or got certain things wrong in the last year, and I haven't seen pieces like that from them. So why is it important to you to write the piece?
Well, first of all, I have a simple rule, being a commentator, a pundit, what you call this. People will never blame you for being wrong. They will blame you for being boring. Okay? They'll blame you for having a mealy-mouthed thing. So, okay, I was wrong. If you sit here, if you do the Ari Melber show, I don't know, 14 times a year, you're not going to make every call right. By the way, it's profoundly right that identity politics was a political loser for Democrats. That was profoundly right that Biden was not running for re-election. It was not the best idea we had. But that's not the question. I'm going to continue. If I have an opinion, I think it's formed, I'll continue to make it, and I'm not going to be scared that I'm wrong. And I don't mind at all people pointing out I was obviously wrong. And I wanted to be right. I wanted desperately to be right. And, you know, there's a lot of people that say, oh, we ought to give up. This is just a racist, misogynist country. Well, you didn't move to Canada, now did you? So this is the country we live in. We got to win in 2026. We got to win in 2028. And let's talk about how we do that. And that's what I really believe. And I promise you, I will be wrong in the future, but I will endeavor to not be boring. That's a motto that I live by.
So let's dig into what you mentioned in the piece as well. We talked a bit about the economy, and I think a lot of folks have talked about that and how much that registered with the voters. You also say you got to get past the Trump obsession, and I want to kind of draw you out on that point because it seems that, and I could show a lot of evidence for this, there were mechanisms on the left that benefited from the Trump resistance, the outrage and concern over his rise in 16 and 17. Entire podcasts, entire political machines, entire fundraising operations, and aspects of the media, right, that benefited from that. That's different, though, I think you point out in the piece, from the broad-based agenda of the national political party to win elections, to wield power on behalf of the public. And so I'm curious if we can be as truthful as possible. Let's put aside the fact, okay, we're talking on a media channel, yada, yada. What do you think about that contrast, that some of the maybe narrators of these issues had a different priority set than the party, and you say the party needs to move past Trump entirely?
Well, what I'm saying, look, I take a backseat to no one in how much I detest Trump and what I think of him. Okay, I'm as fanatical and rabid as the most anti-Trump person you can. But this I do know, and I forgot it, but I'm never going to forget it again in my limited time left on this earth. Voters want an election about them, not about the politicians. And we became obsessed with Trump to the point that we forgot voters and their concerns. That should never happen again. We should make the election, because Trump can't run for re-election, all right? Everything that I see tells me he's going to have a really, really unfortunate time in its term being. But what we need to do is focus on people's lives, not Trump's problems. Let the legal system and other people, and he'll say enough stupid things and appoint enough horrendous people that will become obvious to people. But while that's going on, I think we need to raise wages, protect people's retirement, expand opportunities to buy or rent a home. Okay, these are the kinds of things. Protect women's rights. You know, it's such an economic relation. I live in Louisiana, which is probably 50th or 49th in childhood poverty for children born into poverty. And if a 32-year-old woman working at the Walmart in Oberlin, Louisiana, has to go, I don't know, 750 miles before she could get a legal abortion. She's got 2 kids. She can't pay for it. Her boyfriend is beating her up. And we got to make that about this person's life, too. She's an important person. She's an economic being. And there are many, many other people that are similarly situated in a lot of states. And let's make it about this and let them fall apart with their billionaire, cut Medicaid, cut Medicare, give all the billionaire class tax breaks and you know, shaft the poor woman working at the Walmart. I mean, that's not that they're going to lose that. But let's make them pay on that. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. And then finally, in the piece, you refer to embracing new methods, new digital media. One of the reasons that the part of the Democratic Party struggled with that is a kind of sensitivity, purity test. Some people call it cancel culture, deplatforming. There's a lot of different words for it. But bottom line, there was a view that you shouldn't even go talk to them, that when Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan a few years back, it was considered a mainstream, valid criticism to say that him talking to Rogan meant he was agreeing with or validating Rogan, and that was unacceptable. When it seems to be, politics is the opposite. If Joe Rogan has 40 million people listening to his thing, and you can use that engagement to bring some of them over, well, that might help with the things you just mentioned, women's rights, minimum wage.
Right.
What do you think about that, and do you think any of that's changing in the party?
Well, one of the things I'm on a massive campaign to educate myself on how people receive information. I grew up thinking, boy, if you just get an op-ed page in the New York Times, that's important. A lot of people we know read it. It's a very influential newspaper. I'm very glad to be in it. But there are all kind of other places that people get information. And I think that they have figured it out in ways that we haven't. So rather than curse the darkness, I'm going to light a candle and I'm talking to people is, okay, how are people receiving information? I'm really pushing that we need to do a massive media consumption story because we are using traditional ways to reach people, which apparently from everything that I see, they're getting information from these, and a lot of them are really poor information, okay? I understand that. But we need to understand how people receive information better. And I promise people I'm going to dedicate a good part of my time to trying to learn about it. Because I'm an old-fashioned guy, but the way people receive information is changing by the day.